An AirTag kept following me. It was registered to my wife. The first time my phone warned me about an unknown AirTag traveling with me, I was in line at the pharmacy buying toothpaste and a sleep mask I'd pretend to use. The banner slid across the top of the screen with that polite emergency tone Apple designed for people who don't believe in emergencies. AirTag found moving with you, it said. I tapped it. The device was named Keys, which felt like the kind of lie you tell yourself in a hurry. The map showed my route from the office to the store as a blue ribbon with a gray dot tucked against it like a timid passenger. The dot had been with me since I left my building. It was with me as I picked up takeout and remembered I hadn't remembered to be hungry. I did the reasonable thing. I checked my bag, my coat, under my collar like a schoolboy searching for a prank. Nothing. The app said I could make the AirTag play a sound, and I did. The sound was a soft chime, a shy bird somewhere near but not present. It was coming from the floor, specifically from my shoe. I sat down on the pharmacy bench pretending to retie a lace and peeled my heel away from the sole. There, tucked into the little arch like a coin under a saint, was an AirTag secured with double-sided tape and an optimism that offended me. I worked it free. The glossy white disc blinked like innocence. I scanned it with my phone. AirTag registered to mere A, not a number, a name, Myra, my wife. I went home walking a new way, head forward, shoulders back, eyes doing a quiet inventory of everyone who passed. The chime had stopped. The disc was warm in my pocket, the way devices are after they've confessed. Myra wasn't home yet. She was at a soft opening, the kind of event where chefs whisper about terroir and publicists pretend asking for a free drink is research. She sent a photo at 6:41 p.m. of a scallop on a spoon. The caption read, "Ridiculous," which is how she says, "I'm happy without you for a minute, don't ruin it." In the kitchen, the basil plant was dying theatrically. I watered it out of guilt and cut the scotch tape still clinging to the AirTag with my thumbnail. I set it on the counter like evidence and called the number I'd pulled from the registration page. It rang twice, then patched to her voicemail with its careful, bright instructions. In the background, a voice laughed. A woman, dashes probably, the friend who has never taken a neutral stance on any romance, including ours. I put the AirTag in a drawer. I made myself a plate I didn't want. She came home at 9:12, eyes lit with social electricity, hair smelling like expensive lemons. She kissed my cheek in the rhythm couples keep when they're on good terms with the concept of later, then spotted the drawer open and the white disc on top of the foil where I keep spare keys. "Lose something?" I asked. She looked at the AirTag and then at me, and for a second something incredible crossed her face, relief. "You found it," she said too quickly. "I put one in your shoe because you never answer texts when you're on a warehouse run. If something happened," I finished, trying on generous, "you'd locate the body." She laughed and swiped the disc into her palm. "Don't be dramatic, it's for safety." We're both good at words that wear seatbelts. I could have asked safety from what? Instead, we did the ritual of couch, 2 glasses, the show that makes us feel like we have kept up with culture by osmosis. She tucked her feet under my thigh. I put my hand on her ankle because touch is sometimes the only sentence I still trust. When she fell asleep, I carried her to bed and watched the AirTag blinking softly on the nightstand like a lighthouse that refuses to admit it's on the wrong coast. The second notification came 2 days later, this time while I was at the office. My phone buzzed. "AirTag found moving with you." I checked my shoes. Nothing. My bag. Nothing. The chime, when I pressed it, came from the coat rack by the elevator. The tag was taped under the hem of my overcoat like a secret that had decided to be practical. Myra again. I didn't text. I left the tag where it was and watched the gray dot follow me to lunch, to a client's warehouse, back to my building. I watched it stay. At 7:03 p.m., the dot peeled off my path and took another line entirely, downriver, across to the island, into the triangle where bars multiply and sidewalks learn new sins. The map made a cartoon of betrayal, which almost made me forgive it. I took a taxi. It was the kind of night that pretends to be kind. The driver made a speech about fuel. I nodded on the parts that required religion. We crossed the bridge, and the gray dot waited like a tiny moon at the edge of a street named after a poet who lived alone. It stopped in front of a building I know mostly by rumor. The Relay, a co-working space in the day that turns into something else at night. Members get a pass. Guests get a smile if they know a name. The name at the desk wore a navy suit with a logo embroidered thin as a whisper. KOROLARCHITCTS. Architect. My phone had called him the other week when CarPlay flashed an invitation I wasn't invited to. I remembered the file I'd glimpsed on our hallway console, the logo embossed in extravagant patience. I told the desk attendant I was meeting Marco, and because I used his name like an elevator key, doors opened. At the top floor, a mezzanine looked down on rows of hot desks and hot intentions. The glass conference rooms had frosted bands at eye line like the company had measured the height of shame. The AirTag chimed when I asked it to. The sound came from a coat draped on the back of a chair in a room called Studio B. The coat was navy, tailored, bored with itself. Beneath it, the leather folio again. Beside it, a glass with the ghost of a fingerprint shaped exactly like my wife's ring finger. I didn't walk in. I stood outside and half-watched a wall-mounted screen showing a slideshow of the firm's work, renderings of towers that might get built if cities could learn to say yes to more things. And then I saw her, reflected in the glass like a decision. Myra, hair tied back with the elastic she keeps on her wrist, mouth a little too red for the room. He was with her, tall enough to make me correct my posture by instinct. Roman, or Marco. I can't keep names straight when they rhyme with I told you so. They stood close without touching, the way people do when they've already decided. He was showing her a model, a white foam block cut into the suggestion of floors. He said something, and she laughed from a place I thought was out of service. Her hand went to his forearm for punctuation, then landed at her side like the polite person she has always been. I've lived long enough in a body to know the exact moment it wants to fight. Mine didn't. It wanted to document. I took a breath and then another, the kind you take when you're about to pick up a box that you know holds both your past and all of your tomorrow. I texted her, "I'm downstairs." She saw it appear on her watch. I watched the pixels brightening her wrist. She read it and lifted her head. She didn't startle. She said something to him that made his jaw loose. Then she stepped out of the room as if she were going to wash her hands and met me in the limbo of hallway. "You followed me," she said. No accusation, only awe. "You followed me first," I said. And because we are addicted to civility, we smiled like it was our joke. She looked at the tag in my open palm. "I wanted to know where you were when I couldn't stand not knowing," she said. And then I didn't take it out because knowing felt like an answer to a different question. "Which one?" I asked. "Whether I still wanted to be found," she said. It would be neater to say I made a scene and we were asked to leave. I didn't. I asked if we could talk somewhere that didn't smell like foam and careers. She texted Roman, Marco, with a single line, 10 minutes, and he replied with a single dot. She led me down a back stair to a terrace above the loading dock. Trucks idled like large, patient animals. The air was warm with someone else's dinner. "I'm not going to tell you a story about how nothing happened," she began. "Something happened. Not tonight, before. Twice. in rooms with rugs and a fruit bowl that wanted to be art. She is good at skipping to the middle. I appreciated that and wanted to die. Do you want him? I asked. She braced her hands on the terrace railing like a defendant who believes in jurisprudence. I want the person I was in those rooms, she said. I want the appetite I didn't have to submit, the heat that didn't wait for the weekend. I hate that it wore his face to get my attention. I thought about the AirTag, about how wanting to know where I was became a proxy for wanting to know who we were. I set the disc on the wall between us. 30 days, I said, because my courage likes familiar lengths. No tags, no following, no rooms with fruit. 30 days where we treat our home like the place where heat happens, not where it sleeps. After that, if you want a stranger's forearm for punctuation, you tell me, and I'll open the door instead of pretending I don't know what doors are. She stared at the trucks, then at me. And what do you put in the pot? She asked, the kind of question that makes men discover if they've learned anything. I stop managing us like shipments, I said. I stop arriving with solutions and start arriving with hunger. I say, I want you now when now is still warm. She reached for my wrist, the place where pulse lives. Do you want me now? She asked. Not always now. Yes, I said, and the word tasted like the first and last honest thing. We didn't kiss on the terrace. We have neighbors in our bones. We took separate elevators down. In the alley, I told her I'd walk to the car and not look back. I didn't. She came. At home, we talked until language got tired of itself. She told me about Roman. His actual name was Roman, which made me feel less insane. About how he held models like animals. About the way he remembered her questions and returned to them like proof of life. I told her about the way I had been saving kisses for when our teeth were brushed and our phones were charging. We admitted everything except the parts that would do nothing but bruise. Then she put her hands on my face and kissed me like we were late, and we were. I won't write the choreography, it belongs to us. I will say it was not acrobatic, it was intent. She laughed once, the good laugh, when I fumbled with the button on her blouse like a man who hadn't earned this new syllabus. She said, there, as my hands found what they hadn't forgotten, and the words geography restored ours. It was YouTube safe in the way YouTube does not understand that listening to breath can be the most indecent part. When we were quiet, exhaustion came like a polite friend who insists on driving. We folded into sleep in the wide, ordinary bed where nothing dramatic has ever happened and everything consequential has. In the morning, she texted Roman a paragraph I will never ask to read. I saw the shadow of it on her face and noticed it didn't break her. It opened something and then closed it. He replied with a single line that made her eyes go wet and then dry. He said he loved the way I leave, she told me. I hate that about him, and I liked it once. She blocked his number and threw the AirTag into a drawer. I took it out and put it on the counter. Let's do something better with this, I said. We named it Now. We set automations. When either of us texts now, the other's phone triggers the AirTag to play a sound. It became a joke and a ritual. On Tuesday, I sent now from a meeting, and she sent a photo of her mouth saying yes. On Thursday, she sent now from the market, and I showed up with flowers and an apology I didn't owe her anymore. For a month, we were shameless and meticulous. We failed at some of the days. We were glorious at others. Dasha asked if we wanted to go to a soft opening, and we said no with an enthusiasm that made her laugh and accuse us of becoming farmers. We cooked badly and ate well. We learned our apartment's good light. We made out in the laundry room because the dryer's purr made everything sound like rain. The AirTag lives on a hook by the door like a saint or a timer. Sometimes late, when our better angels are asleep, one of us taps it just to make it sing, and the other says now from the hallway like a password. A week after I last saw Roman through glass, a small package arrived. Inside, a fragment of balsa wood from a model sanded smooth, with a pencil line across it like a topographical secret. No note, just the object, light and precise. I held it to the window. It glowed like something pretending to be precious and failing. I set it on the bookshelf between our paperbacks and our forgotten ambitions. "Trash it," Myra said. "Not yet," I said. "It's a reminder that models are not buildings." We keep walking past the places where we could have broken. Sometimes we look in and sometimes we don't. Our phones light up with ordinary banners now. Pick up milk, meeting at 3, you, followed by me. When my phone warns me an AirTag is moving with me, I smile. It is. She is, I am. Last night in bed, she whispered, "Find me." And I didn't need a device. I knew the route. I knew the room. I knew the door would open because we were finally done rehearsing new ways to be absent. And when the chime sounded on the kitchen table, because we pressed it just to hear the pretty sound, I thought about all the ways people track each other and how none of them work if you don't also choose to be found. I choose, now, again. And when I forget, I hope the little white circle sings until I remember I came here to be located, not watched.